Let's jump to the story from Time, because it gets better. Stephen Colbert is practically daring CBS to shut him down early. Yeah, you can say that. Here's the way I'm going to describe it. Stephen Colbert is having what can only be described as one of the most epic temper tantrums ever seen in American public life. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, you got canceled. And Time Magazine says that he's basically just going nuts on every single episode, going so heavy against his network that he's daring them to shut him down. And I'm like, no, he's having a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Like, imagine dedicating 10 years of your life to being on the wrong side of every single issue. Mm-hmm. And then finally the network comes to you and says, you are fired. And not only that, think about it. Colbert goes to his agent and says, what can I do after this? And they're like, nothing.
Right.
Your whole career for 10 years is Trump is bad. That doesn't sell anymore. You are not a brand we can hire. And so he's having a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Do you blame him?
I mean, look, the protest about him drew like 20 people, I think, something like that. Right. I forget what the name of the protest or whatever was. It drew like 20 people. He doesn't have the audience, and there are two things going on with the Colbert situation. First of all, he doesn't have a finger on the pulse of what is relevant anymore. Just going after Trump doesn't sell, clearly. But also, he's done this in a climate where people don't watch television anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't watch late night shows. All the late night shows are down. And granted, it's down because of the content, but it's also down because Netflix is a thing, and Paramount has their own channel, and Disney has their own channel, and YouTube, and all of these other options that people have. If they don't like exactly what you're producing, they're going to go somewhere else. Right. And so in this climate, to try and alienate half the population, it's a recipe for disaster, and I think Colbert's just the first one. I think more are going to fall.
Yeah, if you look in totality, for the first time now, streaming has surpassed linear television, right? Yep. Both broadcast and cable put together. It's been trending that way for a long time, but those lines have crossed, right? So, to your point that he was fighting uphill anyway. But when you fight uphill and you're just a scold and you're not funny at all, and you don't even try to be funny in a show that's supposed to be about levity and it's supposed to be sort of a break, let's have a laugh before you go to bed. I mean, that's traditionally what late night TV was, and it was really unifying in America at one point, right? Sort of the legends of late night, like Johnny Carson, they made fun of politicians occasionally, but they were very bipartisan, right, in their barbs, and it was great for America, and Americans loved it. Now, instead, we get this scold who is lecturing America, and Kimmel's the same, right? I mean, unfortunately, that late night mold has become a bunch of lefty nags, and nobody likes it, and nobody wants to hear that, especially before bedtime. So thankfully, it's not working.
200,000 people in the key demo like it.
Yeah, well,
and
that's nothing.
3 million boomers.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. The one age demographic from the Real Clear Politics aggregate that was anti-Trump. They went. It was 20 to 29. It's 30 to 39. The only decade, age bracket was 70 plus. That was anti-Trump. Everybody else was pro-Trump, and they're watching Colbert.
Yeah.
And that's all they get. And it's remarkable. I can't imagine what must be going through the mind of your 75-year-old watching Colbert, who's thinking, wow, look how bad Trump is. How could anyone like him? And then Trump wins the popular vote.
Right.
Weird reality.
It's kind of sad because I don't know if I'm the only one here, but I used to like his show like a decade ago, The Colbert Report, before he did the late night show.
When it was normal.
I don't know if I'm a sucker here because it was kind of just like a parody of Bill O'Reilly. I don't know what they were. I think that was the angle there, but I thought that was like really rich and funny, and like I don't know. I was very young at the time too, but just to see this complete transformation, to see him be, I don't know, unrecognizable. He's a total actor though, and you don't really know what you're getting with this guy. Like I don't know who the real Stephen Colbert actually is. When we do see him behind the scenes, we see him dancing with Chuck Schumer. Right. So I'm just led to believe that he is a Democrat. He's also a practicing Roman Catholic, and I think he spoke about like significance of that.
That's why
in his work.
So pro-choice.
Like I feel like it's so interesting to see the ways that Catholicism manifests in our politics, because when I hear about Catholics, mostly you think of like the J.D. Vance types who not too long ago converted, but I feel like the average Catholic in our country is probably closer to Stephen Colbert frankly, for all I know.
Well,
To be fair,
I don't know.
Yeah,
Am I
let me
wrong
push
on that?
back on
Please.
that because I know these numbers cold. As a matter of fact, I just gave a speech on this topic last week in my work for Catholic Vote. So Trump carried Catholics by 12% nationally this time, and he tied among Catholics against Joe Biden. So one of the key reasons he did not win, that he was not already president in 2020, is because he tied. Now, Joe Biden, of course, presented himself as a Catholic president, as a Catholic candidate. I think it's a bunch of baloney, right? But nevertheless, it worked with a lot of Catholics. Trump won Catholics by +8 in 2016, tied in 2020, +12 this time. So the reason that he won the national popular vote is Catholics coming his way. Catholics are sort of the swingiest vote and also just a giant cohort. There's over 50 million Catholics in America. So I would say Catholics have moved way more toward Trump than they are toward Colbert.
I noticed you were
but
careful with
here's
your
a
language
question:
presented.
Can you be pro-choice and be Catholic?
No, not legitimately.
So
No.
the point that he's making when he says Catholics are closer to Colbert, they're not Catholics.
People who identify themselves as Catholic,
Right.
I think we get into like murky territory where we're judging. I'm not one to judge if somebody is
Who's
like,
authentically,
and you
yeah.
were careful with your language there. Speaking about Joe Biden's religion, you said like, what was it? Not pretending, but not
presented himself as-
Presented.
yeah.
That was the word you used.
Yeah.
Presented as Catholic. Do you not believe that? I don't know that he is truly, because I'm even looking at Stephen Colbert when he had the cross for Ash Tuesday.
Ash Wednesday,
Ash
yeah.
Wednesday. It is so like. I feel like the average person who believes themselves to be Catholic in this country is pro-choice.
Okay, yes, this is an important distinction. So, by the way, those numbers I just gave you are people who identify as Catholic. And that, again, that's from the Pew Validated Voter Survey. So that's people who identify as Catholic. Trump was +12, right? That is not any reflection on whether or not they practice what they actually believe, right? That's not judging their Catholicism. It's just saying, do you identify as Catholic? That's it. Trump won +12, won overwhelmingly. If you then break it down to practicing Catholics and say, okay, do you go to church at least twice a month? Or do you believe in certain issues? Well, then Trump's percentages shoot into, he's literally in the 80s or even 90s. Then they poll and vote a lot more like evangelicals do, frankly. So there's a big difference between sort of cultural Catholics who identify as Catholic but don't necessarily practice the faith, and then actual practicing Catholics, and they obviously vote very differently. But the point is, when we group them all together, they have massively moved toward Trump, toward America First, and by the way, also on immigration, because the Catholic bishops have been very, very anti-Trump, very pro-illegal migrant. The Catholics in the pews simply don't believe that. Again, just the election last November, but also all the polling shows that. So it's a significant issue, and it's a fascinating issue. But when people like Colbert and Joe Biden try to wear their Catholicism on their sleeve, I think believing Catholics recognize immediately it's complete hypocrisy. It's not genuine. It's not accurate. And they're trying to do it for either political or media benefits, not from their heart.
If I could have one follow-up on the Catholicism issue, because I do think this is really important, how it manifests in our country. And as I understand it, because again, I'm Jewish, so I'm 1,000 miles away from this, there seems to be a disconnect between global Catholicism and the Catholic Church. And like those at the top compared to those in America. I don't know, is there a unique brand? Do you feel as though there's a unique brand of American Catholicism, or does it manifest differently than the ways it manifests in South America, or even, I don't know, out in Italy at the Vatican, and how the Pope speaks about these issues? Because writ large, as I understand them, very pro-immigrant sentiment. And, and that's different, as I understand, American Catholics believing as that manifests. So I don't know. Does that make sense there? And
yeah, no,
am I observing a real phenomena?
No, it's an excellent look. When you're talking about a faith with over 1 billion adherents that's truly global, of course, there's a massive amount of diversity and complexity, and a lot of it's geographic. The American practicing American Catholics politically are definitely to the right of most of the hierarchy in Rome. That's just a fair, objective statement to observe. But it's also fascinating that we now have an American Pope, right, for the first time ever, which I think most American Catholics, most Americans, period, thought was an impossibility, thought could never happen. And he doesn't exactly seem to be right-wing, or I wouldn't call him conservative, but compared to Francis, massively so, right? And certainly not anti-American in any sense. Somebody who came from Chicago, who came from the United States, and loves this country. So it's an interesting moment. And when you have an American Pope, and you have at least the potential for J.D. Vance, our deeply Catholic vice president, to become the president of the United States, perhaps, coming up, it's interesting. There's an American Catholic moment that's pretty historic.
Catholics have come a long way in our country.
Yeah.
Maybe because, I don't know, the history of Catholics here, they used to be persecuted here, so obviously came a long way.
Yeah.
Sorry for you with this. We were pivoted hard there, but...
Yep. Anyway, Stephen Colbert, wow, he's crazy.
Crazy Catholic.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.